All right. Well, thank you all for being here. It's always great to come to an NC Idea Summit. A lot of friendly faces that we get to see here every year, and also a lot of new faces this year as well. I think Barry was mentioning that, and Tom was mentioning that we have an incredible amount of out-of-state visitors. So welcome to North Carolina, and welcome to the state that has the fourth largest defense footprint in the entire country. And that's why we're here today, is we want to be able to maximize the value of of the activity that we have going on here within defense. So my name is Jess Jor. I'm the Deputy Director for the North Carolina Department of Commerce's Office of Science, Technology, and Innovation. In the Science and Technology Innovation, if you've never heard of it, I'll give you the quick spiel. We work with a board of science, technology, and innovation to develop and execute on strategy on how we can increase the economic value and the economic well-being through science and technology for all North Carolinians. And so part of my focus is specifically within the defense industry sector and the science and technology and innovation that goes and supports those new types of jobs, new types of technologies that will highly impact not only North Carolina, but also national security. So I gave you one stat that we're the fourth largest military presence. Now, how many people think that we should actually be fourth in the amount of DoD science and technology funding? Well, me too. All right. Well, we're actually 25th, and we're actually ranked behind Rhode Island and New Hampshire. And so this is a problem, and we need to figure out ways to solve this. And I think a lot of those solutions starts with this particular community, and that's why I've brought together these panelists here today. So just kind of give you an estimated value of what this actually looks like. We get in fiscal year 23 in the DoD funding realm of science and technology and research and demonstration or research and development. We got $209 million in North Carolina. That, if you actually do the math and say like, okay, well, how much should we be getting based on our military footprint and our also high number of skilled subject matter experts of veteran population, which is actually 7th in the country, we should be at around $2 to $2.5 billion. So we have to look at this like a DARPA model. So DARPA is the defense, Advanced Research Program Agency. All right, so there's one thing you'll have to realize in defense is that there's 1,000 acronyms, and we're going to demystify all that here today. So anyways, we have to think about this like a DARPA model, where you have to think about this as like, how do you go and increase by a 10x type of activity. So I'd like to introduce all of the panelists here, and I'm going to actually just kick it off right here with Jarrett, and we're going to go down the line. And I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about why you're interested in defense, and then also I'd like to have you answer the question pretty quickly on what conditions make North Carolina a strong environment for defense-focused startups to scale. Jarrett, go ahead.
Thanks, Jess. Good afternoon, everyone. Jarrett Lane. I'm the co-founder of a newer organization called the North Carolina Critical Technologies Alliance. We're a 501c6 organization, and we are focused on, number one, helping get the defense technology community here better organized, but with that better organization, go out and do advocacy at the federal and the state levels to get at the problem that Jess just described, and also helping to create programming and resources to help innovators, both founders as well as in our universities, access the capital that they need to advance the state of the art in defense technology here in the state. To answer the question, I actually think Jess hit on what I believe is really our strong suit or our secret weapon here, which is we do have incredible talent coming out of our military installations. And when I say incredible talent, I mean we have the top of the top of the U.S. warfighter and coming out of the special operations community. And then coupled with the engineering and the technical talent that our universities are producing. And if you ask companies, that are in the defense tech space, what value or what has drawn them to North Carolina, usually workforce and talent is the first thing that is coming out of their mouth. And we'll talk more about it here in a minute, but you probably saw the announcement from Vulcan Elements, building rare earth magnets, Durham-based startup. They just announced the standing up of their new production site. Jess and I just had the opportunity to go be a part of that. And when we asked them, why did you choose North Carolina? Workforce. That was their answer.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with that, they just closed on their $65 million Series A. Just about 2 months ago, they received capital from the Department of Defense or Department of War investment, and then they also have another. Forgot how much money it was to actually go and help build their facility out. So they just invested $1 billion into a facility in Benson, North Carolina, that's going to support 1,000 jobs, and they just had that opening today. Keith, you're next.
Yeah, that's huge news. Good afternoon, everybody. Great to be with you. I'm Keith Wheeler. I lead the Office of National Security and Industry Initiatives at East Carolina University, a couple hours east of here. Grew up on the Outer Banks, went to high school right down the road at School of Science and Math, and then to Annapolis. And then I was on warships in the Navy for a little over 27 years. About 10 of those years were up in D.C., a couple of tours in the Pentagon on the Navy staff and on the Secretary of Defense staff. And my last 3 years I was at DARPA, and for about half that time I was the Chief of Staff there. Started this office 7 years ago, right after I retired, and we are focused on creating partnerships externally with military and industry partners in our region, about 29 counties, roughly east of I-95 in the state of North Carolina, to create opportunities for our faculty and students. To get after the question, the one thing I would add is, yes, we are the fourth largest military footprint in the country, but understanding the makeup of that footprint is important. We have a lot of operators, and understanding the color of money you'll sometimes hear in defense conversations, knowing where those pockets of research and development dollars are, where they come from, and how to make sure you're having the right conversations with the right folks is important in that ecosystem.
All right, 100%. All right, Dave Whitmire.
Yeah, so I'm a North Carolina immigrant. I was in the Army 27 years, enlisted a commission, all special operations at the tactical level, except for the last 6 years where I was in the National Military Force, working policy and strategy as well as operations overseas. Got out. One of the reasons I stayed in North Carolina was the Bailey Act. One of the draws. I was not, to answer your question, I was not interested in the defense. I wanted to sell Nike shoes or anything other than defense because I'd spend so much time behind the wall, right? But ended up falling backwards into a couple of jobs, and I'll talk about this during, when you ask me about the DARPA accelerator. Kind of an embedded entrepreneur, helping others with their businesses, grow their businesses in the defense sector as well as the commercial sector. I've been doing mergers and acquisitions on and off, as well as consulting, still consulting back in some of the technical areas I was responsible for in the military. And I'm currently the federal incoming director of the Wireless Research Center. The RIOT is part of the WRC as well as a couple other initiatives. So why North Carolina? First, I don't know how many people know this, but North Carolina, of all the 50 states in the Union, has the most diverse weather of any other state. We also have all of the terrain necessary to test and evaluate technology. The only thing we don't have is altitude. We have everything else. And so one of the initiatives I tried to run way back when I've taken 2 companies to exit on the commercial side. One of the things I tried to work was getting some of the R&D for SOCOM in North Carolina. The problem is that we didn't have a lot of interest at the, we weren't given way together, basically, to bring it here. Because to your point, we've got the talent, we've got the terrain, we've got the proximity to the real end user. We're within 5 hours drive of almost 80% of the operator community on the soft side. We're 4 hours from DC, 3 hours and 50 minutes if I take the risk in Virginia. So it's just a phenomenal opportunity, particularly in this day and age. We got the largest defense budget in the history of modern warfare, right? And for us not to jump on it like a, I don't want to use a metaphor, but jump on it is nuts. So that's why I'm here.
All right, thanks. And I think one of the common themes that you guys have talked about so far is quality over quantity. This is one of the things that Jarrett preaches on all the time to me. And one of the good representations of quality from a startup company is Rob Creighton at Windlift.
Thanks. There we go. Hey, so I'm Rob Creighton, the founder and CEO of Windlift, and we build tethered drones that are used as a platform for cameras, radar, and like radio communications, both transmitting and receiving. And we got our start working with the Army, originally the Army Power Surety Task Force in 2009. I like to say I'm an accidental military contractor. It was somebody met somebody at a dinner party up in DC, and they thought that our technology could be applied to solve some really vexing military problems, basically moving fuel in forward operating positions. Logistics is the big challenge. So during Afghanistan, there were IEDs that were the big problem. Now the IEDs are flying and blowing up fuel trucks and causing all sorts of challenges. And our technology was originally developed to produce power in remote places using the wind, and that's how we started. And now we've kind of pivoted, really in the last year or so. We've been approached by a lot of defense primes that want to elevate their sensors, and in the military, the high ground gives you more range. And now we're working really closely with these defense primes. We got actually 3 of the top primes in the US now that want to use our platform because we're really good at handling windy conditions. And like you said, North Carolina, when you get to the coast, has some of the windiest conditions in the world. And really coastal areas are the place that we're targeting most strongly with our technology. So that's what we do at Windlift.
All right. So who in the room here has actually does work with defense already? All right, so we got a few people. So this is it's a pretty this world of this defense world is kind of challenging, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't get into it. Who all here does anything related to science and technology? All right. So there's this whole idea of dual use technology and how do you pivot your technology into that. So what the plan is over the next like 15 minutes or so is to get some of this input from the panelists on actually how do you demystify some of these things. Keith, I'm going to start with you. Working at a university, you interact with a lot of different types of support organizations. Talk to us about what you've seen through North Carolina in your time here in terms of support organizations and what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. Well, Eastern North Carolina is very rural. If any of you have not been here and you get a chance to go out to the Outer Banks, you'll see how quickly it gets rural pretty fast. So it's difficult to kind of in the startup entrepreneurship world sometimes to have a critical mass like you would in a more urban area. So you have to really think regionally and seek out partnerships to help, improve whatever it is that you're trying to do. ECU, I mean, you said we work with a lot of support, but we also provide a lot of support. We have 27,000 students. We're a huge support hub for our region. We have a College of Business, and within that, the Miller School of Entrepreneurship that provides a lot of support to those 29 counties around us. I think that really kind of sums it up. I mean, you have to work harder in a more rural, kind of less dense environment.
Yeah, Jarrett, go ahead. And mind you, Jarrett, y'all started up this organization because you all saw gaps within this space. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, well, I wanted to pick up on something that, is candidly how few people raise their hand of, I've done work in defense. I think, candidly, a lot of folks think about defense as a vertical. And I would sort of encourage folks in the room to actually think about defense as more of a horizontal. If you're in healthcare, there is a buyer in the DoD for what you are building. If you are in AI, there is a buyer in DoD for what you are building. And so I think part of, to your point on gaps, part of what we have to figure out, and I think this is an important conversation to have here, is how do we, for all the folks that didn't raise their hand, what are the questions that you have? What are the challenges that you have? Because the technology is here, the talent is here, the innovation is here. We haven't figured out how to mobilize this community that we have to go after this market opportunity in DoD.
Why is it so challenging to mobilize a group of people like this that, I mean, everybody in this room is super motivated. Why has it been a challenge to focus on defense? Dave?
So I think, this is my hypothesis, and they kind of went, so one of the panels kind of hit on it yesterday. Unbelievably successful in North Carolina, right? I mean, we're there's a bunch of prosperity.
Number one in business.
Yep, number one in business, got a great ecosystem. We're doing stuff right. There's not a need. There's not a urgency so why is Michigan stepping in? Why did Texas do everything they did 5 years ago, 6 years ago at the state level? Is because they're like, hey, we need to get in the game here. And I don't think sometimes I think there's not enough fear of missing out, right? So we're working on ways. So our big pacing item, not a lot of people raise their hand, the DoD's pacing item is 2027, China. So China's already, we've been at war, so this is going to be a sensitive. We've been at war with China for probably 20 years. We just haven't been aware of it, fighting it, caring enough about it. If you look at most of our issues socially, economically, some of the issues we're experiencing overseas, there's only one or two peer competitors, and I'd say even they're a little ahead, to be honest with you. And so North Carolina is where we can put a flag in the ground and stay ahead and stay competitive. I mean, the time is now. They said it yesterday. The time is now. I mean, we don't have a lot. Once we fall behind, it's going to be unbelievably hard to catch up. And we are falling behind.
One thing I think we could do in the state, we have some amazing conferences and summits where a lot of very diverse perspectives come together throughout the year. But you mentioned projects. So the DARPA's specifically about projects, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. They start things and they end things very quickly, intentionally, to prove whether it can be done, and then hopefully one of the services will pick it up and carry it forward. But that project-based concept could be used very intentionally, and not even in a defense role. So you could take this back to your ecosystems wherever y'all are from. We've been working with the Army on a project called Catalyst Pathfinder. It's funded by Army Development Command. It pays for a program management company called CMI2, Civilian Military Innovation Institute, to have a presence on several different Army bases, one of which is Fort Bragg here in North Carolina. Their job is to bubble up ideas from the soldier level from multiple units around the base. All those ideas, tens of thousands of ideas, get bubbled up every year. They get curated, they get assessed for impact, cost, things like that. Whether Sergeant Smith was just having a bad day and scanned the QR code to just vent, or whether there were 27 of the same submissions that said, hey, this thing really failed us in the field, we need to get after it. They get bubbled up high enough, they get shared with all the institutions in the UNC system to apply research expertise to those problems. And so we'll send researchers from ECU, sometimes across departments. So one of our most successful one is a blood drop project where we have physiology, biology, chemistry, and technology systems working on a Fort Bragg problem to help them solve some issues that they have in the field. But it could be any number of different problems that you have in your ecosystem. So Army DevCom provides the funding, the soldiers bubble up the ideas, and the academy brings the expertise to bear to help them solve it in nearly real time, because they're sitting shoulder to shoulder with the folks who had the problem. It doesn't go up to a program manager in DC, no offense if there are any of those folks here, But those problems that go up there, sometimes you don't see tangible results from those for 10 years down the line. So these are a lot quicker. That framework can be employed on almost any area to solve those types of problems.
All right, thanks. Rob,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on this in terms of like how your technology has evolved? What kind of resources have you been able to utilize kind of going through the whole process?
So yeah, when I first moved here to North Carolina, I ended up needing a place to kind of land, and actually landed at the First Flight Venture Center, and I'm an alumni from there, and that's been a great organization to help get connected. Met my general counsel there, Chris Lynch, met my first CTO, and a lot of those resources came together, so it was good to have that landing point. And then the state actually supported me with, when I won my first SBIR, Small Business Innovative Research grant. They gave me some matching funds that let me apply for the next phase of that. So that those little kind of bumps here and there have helped a lot. And now we've done, I think, $24 million of work for the Naval Research Lab and Marine Corps and the Army. So it's like those little investments up front can seed a lot of extra work. And now we're trying to raise money again. And I think that's maybe one of the challenges here in North Carolina, because we have such a deep, IT group. We've got all these, SaaS, and we've got these successful software as a service companies or companies like that, and we have pharmaceuticals, but we haven't really had the big defense primes like here that have done this R&D. So there's not people reinvesting in that community, and really all of my private investment has come from out of the state. So it's like, I think for every dollar that we've had done work here, we've had, of investment, it's been $12 of R&D. So it's like, that can be a huge amplifier. And the defense business is a big business, and it's changing really quickly. I've been spending some time in Europe meeting with Ukrainians, and you talk to Ukrainians who've served on the front line, and drone warfare is terrifying. They have PTSD that is, one of the guys I'm friends with actually has a software company that serves something like 1 million Ukrainians who have PTSD from hearing drones, and those drones are really scary. So that's what my company hopes to do, is provide defense against drones, and I'm actually partnered with a Finnish company to help provide those services. But I think if we're not going to invest in it, it's like what people say about government, like you might not be interested in government, but government's interested in you. That's kind of what's happening in the defense world. Drones are going to change things, and China's making tens of millions of drones a year and selling them around the world, and we're just not even in the game. We have F-35 program, we have all these big kind of legacy systems, but the future of defending our borders, defending our cities, the cost of bad actors doing bad things has come down so much that we need to have ways to protect our infrastructure and keep our cities safe. And I think the future of warfare is going to require this radical rethinking in how we defend ourselves from threats.
So I want to pick up, so there's very clearly the national security imperative. Like, what is our role as a state and as a community in helping solve national level problems that are pretty nasty problems? But from an economic development perspective, I think it's important we don't lose sight of kind of what you were alluding to, of the impact that defense S&T and research and development money can have, right? So I think most folks, they think of DoD, like DARPA, obviously there's the internet, right? GPS, that is a DoD research project. Lithium batteries, that originated with the Department of Defense and funding from them, right? So DoD is still, by and large, the biggest risk taker, I would say, when it comes to seeding funding for the technologies that are going to materially impact the economy tomorrow. And so as we're thinking about how do we as a state get out ahead and foster the innovation that is going to result in us being a center of gravity for developing the technologies that become, this, because by the way, the amount of DoD money that went into your phone is insane. It wouldn't exist without it. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about what is North Carolina's role in building tomorrow's version of this. And so I think that, the other thing that we need to help kind of help demystify is I think that folks, and I alluded to this before, think DoD and they think things that blow up and lethality and whatnot. But most people don't realize that the U.S. Army is the second largest funder of breast cancer research in the country, right? And so it is a massive opportunity, and as Dave alluded to, it's growing. We have a $1 trillion defense budget. And so if you're a startup, if you're curious or even thinking about defense, what I would argue is that there has been, yes, I'm not going to lie, it is challenging. You got to learn the lingo. There are people up here that can help with that. But the opportunity has never been bigger and the timing more urgent for you to bring your innovation into the conversation.
All right, I've got another question, then we're going to open it up to the audience for some questions as well, so get them ready. VC funding within defense technology is up 200% year to year right now. What are they specifically looking for as, from a company standpoint? And Dave, we'll start with you, and then we'll go Rob and Jarrett and Keith.
Yeah, so there is so as we're a DARPA commercial accelerator at WRC. So in my engagement with VCs in both the DARPA's program, the Venture Horizons program, and our own ecosystem, essentially it's a way to de-risk your capital, right? So I can go get non-dilutive funding through what was probably previously known as the SBIR, STTR program. I can get, in terms of the DARPA accelerator, they get a embedded entrepreneur, and so the difference, it's not in residence, they're inside the company turning wrenches. They get a mentor and coach and advisor to kind of shepherd it, and they're on a time, and they're on the clock. To Keith's point, we got 12 months to get them across the bridge in either recurring revenue to sustain their business in the commercial sector or the defense sector. And so we'll take whatever path is quickest and easiest to get them over that hump and make them a viable company. So I think in my conversations with them, the VC, they like it because it de-risks their capital a little bit.
Yeah, well, I'm still kind of figuring out exactly how to work with defense tech VCs because there really aren't a lot here in North Carolina. So you're going to California, you're going to Austin, and it's making those personal connections and building trust has been the hardest thing. And I think that's something that, we as, I think, like I said, the first flight's been bringing in people to help build that trust and build those relationships. But I'm still, as an entrepreneur, and like I said, we've had 24 million of non-dilutive funding and developed really advanced technologies in power electronics, AI-guided machine design, and advanced composites. So we have all these amazing technologies. Then how do you connect that with traction within all these organizations and then bring the investors in when we don't really have a community here? I mean, I'm a bit of a pioneer in that way here in North Carolina. So, NC IDEA helping to build those communities, bringing that capital here, and also giving ourselves permission to invest in this business, because if we're not investing in it, we're not going to profit from it. So, I've brought all of my money has come from outside the state. I've created jobs here, but like at some point I'm like, if the state's not investing in building this and helping, I can't just be alone. I need to be part of a community. And so I'm looking for answers and help to doing that. And how do we invest in this business? Because it is a huge business. It's $1 trillion of your tax money leaves the state to go to other states to fund the defense business that we've just kind of abdicated here in many ways. So I don't know the answer to that, but let's bring more venture here and get people with capital in the state to invest in defense tech and all the industries that can spin out of it.
I have all sorts of unreasonably strong opinions about the role of VC in defense, and if you corner me, I'll probably talk nonstop about it. But to Rob's point, we need more venture investing to support the growth of defense technology companies here in North Carolina. I think that is unquestionably true. I guess the one thing for the folks who are investors in this room that I would sort of wave sort of a caution flag on is that I think that if you're interested in getting into defense investing, go into it eyes wide open. The normal trajectory of X amount of returns and X number of years, like that ain't gonna fly in defense. patient capital, the willingness to put things off. That's the defense investors that are needed, right? I think that there's candidly some malign effects of folks that come, from the investor community who see a $1 trillion market opportunity and jump in because they see it as a money-making venture. And I get that. But we're talking about a market that you really need to understand and have expectations set. And so we need it. We need folks that are willing to sort of, put their capital on the line and think about the long game, but go into it with a recognition that, you're playing by a different set of rules.
I'm not going to try to talk VC along with these three, but what I will share is from a startup entrepreneurship perspective, and this applies well past DoD, and another DARPA-ism is the Hallmeyer Catechism. If you don't know that, you can Google it. It's a very simple framework to honestly assess whatever it is that you're trying to do. It's powerful. It was produced 50 years ago by a DARPA director, Dr. Hallmeyer, in the mid-'70s, and it is still used by DARPA today. So it is an absolute, very simple, very powerful framework. And it starts with just what is it you're trying to do? How's it done today, and what's wrong with that? How long is it going to take? How much funding is it going to take? What are the risks? What are the kind of interim milestones or steps before the final exam? Very, very simple. But if you're honest with yourself and if you get people to help with that assessment, and many ecosystems have that kind of support that can help you look through like business model canvas and things like that. But I urge you to look at the Hallmeyer Catechism because it is very powerful.
I just want to add really quickly because I glanced over probably the most important point I should have made, which is that we're actually really excited to be partnering with NC IDEA, Tom and Barry and team to start organizing investor office hours. So if you are an investor that is curious about defense, come and talk to us. And if you are a founder who is also interested in exploring the defense space, we will be having defense tech focused investors as a part of that, and they'll be able to also provide some guidance and some insights to help you start to navigate the market. So really appreciative of the team at NCID and helping make that possible. Come and see me after if that's something that you're curious about. Thanks.
All right, so we got a few minutes. Let's see, Barry's gonna be walking around with a mic. Anybody have any questions for the panelists? We always preference people with bow ties for questions.
Hello there. There we go. Thank you so much for the information. I'm Patrick Siebold. I'm the CSO for East America Science. We're building hardware to accelerate regenerative bio and medicine research. And my question is, how early is too early for defense funding? Because we're building the hardware that will help push forward regeneration and wound healing medicine, but we're not actually building the treatments yet. Is that something that the DoD might actually be interested in, or is that too early in the process?
I'll jump in here. A dirty secret of the defense industry is that once the requirement has hit the street, they already know what they want to buy and who they want to buy it from. And so what I would advise is get in early, shape the requirements, because that is your path to actually having an Ice Cube's chance at winning the solicitation once it hits.
And if you're not familiar with CDMRP, Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program, Google that. It's a rolling kind of annual set of topics that Congress gets to choose, gets funded, and you may be, in that list of things that they're looking to fund.
No, come see me.
Hello. So I moved to this country 2.5 years ago. And as an immigrant, I recall looking for software jobs. And every job I saw in defense required security clearance. And I thought, oh, that's just not it. And so now as an immigrant founder, one of the questions we were talking about was like, what is preventing the people in this room from maybe being a part of it? I just see it and I'm like, nope, I'm not going to have anything there. Clearly, as I'm an immigrant, I don't have that clearance. And maybe for founders who aren't necessarily immigrants, but have immigrants on their teams who might require security clearance, I'm not sure that that is correct, but it is a perception I might have. And I think it's also a perception, perhaps even broader than that the Department of Defense and those sorts of funded industries might need to overcome, is a sense of, as a diverse team, just in general, am I welcome in this space?
Yes. So there are all kinds of companies out there that work in the defense sector that have folks that don't have clearances, right? We do that at WRC, and I think one of the questions we had, that was going to be teed up is how does a regional accelerator succeed? So for us, we have a top secret facility clearance. I can sponsor PCLs, and I can create a firewall between what you need to know and what. The only thing that classifies something is sources and methods. If I take away the sources and methods, I can still give you the requirement, and you can develop against it. And you can absolutely get a clearance as an immigrant. The process might take a little longer than normal because the background checks require probably long-distance phone calls and such, and travel. But you can absolutely get it, and you can absolutely play in the defense space without having everybody on your team cleared.
Awesome. Hi guys, I'm Bridget Pfeiffer with Living Better Life. We actually have a business accelerator where we work with quite a few startup companies who are looking to expand their technology or to connect with technology that's already existing, whether it's through federal laboratories or, and I'm trying to think of how we can either work as like a pass-through to get them to you. What type of system, what type of process would that look like as far as taking our incubator or accelerator participants and putting them and connecting them either with you or federal laboratory so they can move on to their next stage?
That is exactly the types of things that we need all across the state, is the home for this, so that they can then go and leverage the expertise of the people on this stage and then the other subject matter experts on this to go and do that.
Yeah, let's talk offline, because what we need is we need to identify the companies that have the capability and have the interest. And unfortunately, I don't think that there's a one-size-fits-all approach, and we've kind of alluded to that. There's lots of different pathways for how you get into the market, and I think it's going to be contingent on what you're building, who your target customer is, right? So every case is a little bit different, and that's one of those things I think, it's still a very people-driven business. It's no different than selling to any other enterprise, right? So we'd love to take the conversation and learn more.
All right, one more question, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Stewart Isaacs. I'm with an organization called I Am Brilliant. Part of my question is in regards to when it comes to defense is the patent process and the ownership of IP. When working with the government, is there any standardized way? Of course, a lot of it is registered with the federal government, but how does that work in regards to defense projects, in regards to IP, and how the government sees it? Because you can go to cities, counties, states, do projects, and sometimes when you share information, they sometimes say they can siphon off some of that information for you. Any best practices or referrals prior to taking ideas to the government to protect yourself properly?
Yeah, so I've been through this a lot with patents we filed, and also on the other side of this SBIR program is something called SBIR data rights. So a patent allows you to own that technology, but a patent just gives you permission to sue somebody who violates that technology, which as a small business can be really expensive to defend your technology if you don't have a wall of capital behind you to actually take that lawsuit all the way forward. The cool thing about the SBIR process, it's like the reverse of a patent. It's not a public disclosure. In fact, everything you tell the government, they have to protect that information and not share it with you. And the great thing about that is after you compete for that phase one, the government considers you to have competed for that technology. So it gives you something called a sole source justification to take that all the way forward to, now we've done, our phase 3 SBRs we did, that funding doesn't come from the SBR program, it has to come from another source. Ours was actually congressionally directed funding for our project, which that's a whole other story, but the SBR sole source justification, it's a really fantastic tool for a small business because it creates value in your company, but you don't have to have $1 million of capital to sue somebody who steals your idea. that's all that a patent gives you, is the right to sue somebody. And 99% of patents end up being worthless anyway. That sole source justification means instead of going through a BAA, or a broad area announcement, where the government asks for a request for proposal, an RFP, that whole process, that can take up to 18 months before you get a single penny. And as a small business, 18 months, that's a long time to wait to get paid. But if you have that sole source justification, that can shorten to 4 to 6 weeks, which is actually more in line with what a small business accepts. What's that? It's actually, the justification is given by the contracting officer as part of the process for evaluating the requirement. So it's kind of again, you have to be kind of in front of that and make sure the requirement's being written for the technology, and then you also have to make sure there's actually funding on the other side of that. So that there is a bit of maneuvering. I'm sure, Jess and a lot of folks here, and Jarrett's organization is designed to help you kind of weave through those things, but it can be a great way to build a company without a lot of capital.
Yeah, I want to be respectful of time. I would just add that, DoD also recognizes that its approach to IP is boxing a lot of really innovative companies out of the market. And so they've been leaning into a procurement method called other transaction authorities, OTAs. And what OTAs are is a tool or a way for the government to get on contract using what they would describe as commercial terms, right? So your contract with the DoD looks a lot more like a contract with a commercial enterprise than it does, the classic government contract where, they get your IP rights and all sorts of stuff like that.
So quick, just in 10 seconds. The quickest way to the federal funding, at least for WRC, is to go through our commercial accelerator, Riot. So we have a bridge between Riot and WRC and the classified stuff. Just talk to Tom or Rachel, and that's the fastest way. Not just the DARPA, but the other federal pieces that we're working with other partners.
All right, everybody. All right, so we're well over time. I'm just going to end it there. I really appreciate everybody, the panelists here joining today. Keith, I know you drove all the way over here from Greenville. Appreciate it. I just want to let everybody know that, look, as North Carolina is developing more and more resources towards this, that means that there's going to be more and more resources for you and your organizations, whether they be support organizations or you're the entrepreneur, to go after defense technology and defense funding. So maximize that opportunity so that we can maximize our total opportunity as a state. With that, thanks guys, appreciate it.